Through the years, Chuck and Chernoff have had so many memorable ideas that listeners fell in love with instantly, like SEC2.
Oh, that sucked.
I Hear Voices.
Oh, that really sucked.
The Beach Club.
That may have sucked worst of all.
But no idea has been more beloved by the fan listeners and hated more by the fan management. Now, Chuck and Chernoff are very proud to announce the triumphant return of the audio Funbag.
One more time.
I think I'm happy.
Hey, listen, folks, all it took was a pandemic. No
and
big
it's
deal.
in carpet.
No big deal at all. We are so happy it's back. How long it stays, nobody really knows, but it's here now.
Well, we'll have to have another national emergency for it to come back.
Let's not hope that is the case.
Yeah, they're developing a test for Funbag, awareness. Make sure that if you've caught Funbag, you can get rid of it.
And we are all 6 feet apart from each other right now.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so social distancing, I've now learned that. Let's start this audio Funbag, the return, with a piece of audio that opened up the Buck and Kincaid show today. For anyone who was by the channel right about noon, we had connection issues, and we have now gotten to the point, and when I say we, it's Brian Hoyt, he's now started adding wait music, like elevator
Like we're
music.
on hold.
Where, like you're on hold for the show, so you're going to hear them disappear. This would have been Buck, Hudson, and Tug. Elevator music, followed by Hoyt and I trying to keep the show alive, and by the time we came back, the guys didn't realize that they were still on the air.
Joe Ham's great. Joe Ham's a great day.
Yeah, you can't tow him on his birthday, but every other day the tech guy parks in the front, you got to tow him, right?
Well,
Bob?
this Ham, you better be careful.
Well, here we are again, Lois.
Hey, welcome back.
Oh, no.
So we're going to have Chris Mortensen on at 1 o'clock, and it might end up turning into Los and Hoyt. We'll see how that plays out as the boys are going to be back in just a moment. Maybe. Oh, hey, they're back. Hey, you guys have me? Hey, guys. Hello.
Hey, now.
Hey, how's it going? Glad you're back.
How long have we been on?
Well, you're back, and you've been off for probably about 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah, right. I think
when do
Road
we-
Dogg just let us keep going here.
Oh, God.
Okay, so
Oh, God.
so we're all back. We're all good. All right. Well, Buck, you
Okay, so, hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Buck Bellew, Ted Cowart, Hudson Mason.
Dude, this wasn't near a spot break. It was like 12:04.
See, but you have to understand the Buck delay is real. Like,
okay.
Everybody else starts, and 7 seconds later, that's when it goes to Buck. I don't know why it works that way. It just does.
I'm having flashbacks to Saturday mornings.
as Hoyt and I are like yelling down mine, you're on the air.
Buck,
That's so good. Awkward radio to open things up.
Oy.
So we also now have an archive that's, I think, about 10 or 11 months worth of audio.
This is exciting.
This was a piece of audio from 8 or 9 months ago that Hoyt just described as, I think Buck is getting ready to die on the air. Unfortunately, this is when you're on remote and you don't have a cough button. So you just start trying to clear the throat, trying to make things happen. This was what it sounded like when Buck was doing that.
Hey, everybody, Buck Bellew here, man. If you're looking for a car, I need to send you on out to see the folks at Infinity of Gwinnett Satellite Boulevard in Duluth, because they're Atlanta's premier Infinity dealership. Why? Well, because of the world-class selection. The inventory, man. Both the new and the certified pre-owned Infinities.
I'm proud of him for
We've all been there.
persevering and pushing through. Once it starts, it's over.
You got to stop for about 5 seconds, bite the bullet, get it all going. It's going to be one pause, but then you're back into the spot.
See, but that's where I would blame Hoyt more for not helping Buck right there, jumping in. Hey, Buck, yeah, I got you right here. Take a little deep breath,
Buck, I've seen you in your Infinity. You look great.
Hoyt, that's more your fault than Buck's.
Got a cough button over there, homeboy.
Hoyt just keeps looking at me going, I think we're going to lose Buck. All right, let's move over to some update
Not
fun.
doing anything, just observing.
Let's move over to some update fun. So whenever I'm out, Dan Matthews jumps in. We always
sucks.
We always appreciate when Dan shows up and does some work for us.
That's not who I was talking about when I said that.
So this is an update where Dan, and when it starts going off the rails, it's off the rails. I do it good once or twice a week. This was Dan's, and it turned out to be really funny.
This is the Fans Sports Center.
From the Breda Pest Sports Desk, visit BredaPest.com.
got two new state champs. Good afternoon. I'm Dan Matthews. Up to the minute traffic is next. GHSA state football going on over at Georgia State Stadium. Dublin taking Class 2A over Brooks County 42-32. Earlier, it was Eagles Landing Christian taking out Wesleyan 33-13 in Class 1A private. Yeah, I know, right? Got away from me there.
Is that Wesleyan? Who was that?
Whoa, Wesleyan.
What? Wesleyan.
Was he a rap star? Whoa, Wesleyan.
I'll be honest, speaking is not easy sometimes. And
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, we're all proof of that, Dan.
I just like that he just gave up. He's like, you know what? Yeah, it happened. He just owned it.
What?
It's a word he's seen his entire life.
I know, but once you get tripped up, man, it's over. It's something you do. What Dan handled it correctly. You just fall on that sword and hope it just goes right through you.
Now, your friends at the Georgia Aquarium have had a lot of different promotions that they've been doing, and one of them was their Winter Wonderland or their Winter Waterland. It was these two different deals.
Yeah.
Well, somewhere in between, we had an issue where Mooney Cat,
Where's your dad at?
who was in taking care of that read, he turned it into his own little promotion.
If you're just leaving the office, here's the latest on your ride home. The Fans Up to the Minute Traffic. Driven by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs.
I'm Floyd Hillman, 680 The Fan, Up to the Minute Traffic.
And Up to the Minute Traffic is brought to you by the Georgia Aquarium. See Georgia Aquarium transformed into a winter wonderland. Waterland. That's easy to say. Experience tree lighting ceremonies. I don't even know what I just said. Appearances by Santa, Scuba Claus, holiday-themed events, and more. For details, visit georgiaaquarium.org.
More Mooney Cat is good.
And there's no help for him because immediately Hoyt just starts rubbing his hands together like, ooh, let me get the cat screech out.
Here's the funny thing.
Into a winter wonderland.
you do it every day. There's at least one update, and you're like, okay, but I'm just going to keep powering through.
Fight through.
Yeah, I know, right?
If Mooney has something go like 2% wrong, the rest of his day is ruined. Like, you don't talk to him, you don't engage him in the halls. That is an intense man.
Oh, he turns angry very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I respect.
Yes,
I don't even know what I just said.
He is a total pro from that standpoint. All right. One of our favorites, Sandra Golden.
Oh, no.
Sandra had a really funny piece of audio. This is just a misspeak. It happens at times.
Gianardi Brevard.
Georgia has a new coach who's a special teams coach. This is how things came out during this misspeak.
We're never tired of college football. So let's do another lap on the latest news. It's time for two-a-days.
I meant to bring this up yesterday because we learned what Scott Cochran, the new special teams coordinator coach at Georgia.
Is that?
It only needs it one time.
Wait a minute. Now, is this like when you had Buck cussing about the bullpen? And you just made it sound like something?
No.
So Scott Cochran
became Scott Cochran. Cochran. Scott Cochran is his name.
Wait, let me hear it again.
No.
No. It's just
Scott
a one-time
Cochran
deal.
is the man's name.
Hey.
Just want to make sure I heard
And
it
that's how she said it.
You heard it or you didn't hear it. And that's it. That's how that goes. Now, the same thing happened to Mark Zinno.
Scott Cochran.
Hoyt?
He just said just said.
Stop.
Dump that.
Dump you.
Can you dump it? You didn't dump it.
He did that thing where he goes with his left hand to touch the dump button.
I saw you not.
So Mark Zinno did something very similar where a word that he never meant to say, he meant to say something else, and you'll get it beeped, and you'll hear what he meant to say immediately after.
Judicious in how and when they do things. The quote from Peyton, let's start with the very first premise for the fans. It's still just like all the other challenges that we have in place. Remember, you only have two to start with, so I think you're going to have to see I don't think you're going to see more challenge flags. You're probably going to be a little bit more judicious.
Yeah. And that's why he said it so incredibly quickly to clean it up.
What do I tell you guys anytime
Keep going.
Keep going again.
No, just keep going.
Assume that people are busy and didn't hear you say what you just said. If you say it the second time, you're admitting what you did.
You got to be more careful,
Matt says a play clock guy.
See?
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
Work through it.
Flags. Speaking of somebody who is just keeping it going, that is Georgia basketball coach Tom Crean. He joined Bulldog Roundtable early part of the season, and you're going to hear something happen in the background that immediately gave away where he was at the time.
Coach, let me ask you a question about Donnell, though. How critical to what you're trying to accomplish was it in the short term? Now, I know you've got a long-term vision, but how critical was it in the short term for you to get somebody with experience?
Very, very critical, because the only two we have back as seniors are Tyree.
Do you guys hear Adam Gillespie, the engineer, in the back?
Off mic laughing?
Yeah, because he's the one you can always count on to keep things professional.
Go back. Two things. Chuck is the ultimate professional Dowdle. He doesn't stop in midst of the toilet flushing. Gillespie, listen for the laughing in the background here after the toilet stops flushing.
Coach, let me ask you a question about Donnell, though. How critical to what you're trying to accomplish was it in the short term? Now, I know you've got a long-term vision, but how critical was it in the short term for you to get somebody with experience?
Very, very critical.
There it is.
Because the only two
Oh, I love that road dog.
God bless Chuck Dowdle.
But you get the echo from Crean, too, in the background.
Chuck, get right on going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, now, the explanation was he just walked past one of those sensors.
Sure.
Yeah.
That happens.
That's as loud as it gets. Let's move over to John Kincaid, who very rarely actually gives us good ammunition. And also, remember, Kincaid's never wrong either.
I've heard that. A time or 10.
If you call it ammunition, that actually presents it to our coworkers as a different sort of thing.
So John Kincaid mispronounces a name.
What?
And then clearly didn't realize that he mispronounced the name.
It is a gorgeous Monday hanging out with the Buck and Kincaid show on the Fan. Buck enjoying the Celebrity Golf Tour. Los and Hoyt keeping me company today. So Ford Leadoff Show comes your way late as the Braves take on the San Francisco Giants. Go what? The San Francisco Giants.
It kind of sounded differently. What? Like you called them the San Francisco Ginas.
What?
Yeah.
San Francisco Giants.
He didn't believe us.
Damn T.
Did you play it for him so he finally understood what he said?
The San Francisco Giants.
It was in the break. He goes, "Oh my God, I did say it." He had no idea. And then he thought we were lying to him the entire time for the remainder of the segment.
What?
You wonder what was on John's mind. Now you know.
That's what's up. Let's move over to one Steak Shapiro, who did this was really funny from Steak, because we've all been there where we start looking at our show sheet and every now and then we're like, okay, where's that tease? What did I write down? What do I got?
Come back next with more on 790 The Zone.
Right.
That would have been good if you were at 790 The Zone at the time. That would have been great.
2006, that's a great tease.
In this case, you're going to hear Steak start looking for the tease, realize he doesn't have it, and just say, whatever.
An organization doing everything right, which may sound silly because you're a 28-win team, so we can get that conversation going again.
Yeah, and I think I got a team that may debunk your whole deal about trying to get big-time free agents and why the Hawks haven't done it.
All right.
I'm just telling you.
I want to be debunked, if you will.
I'm gonna.
We'll talk about... I don't know. It's the Fan, 680 and 97 FM.
That's pulling the ripcord.
But you know what?
That's not as bad as it. Not nearly as bad as it could have been.
I've always said the audience doesn't know what's coming up next. You could say we're going to talk to Goofy. Like, it doesn't matter what's coming up next. But if you just want to pull a shoot, get out.
I don't know.
That's a great adjustment, actually. It ain't here. I'm not going to find it. Go to break.
How many times have I read the wrong tease for the wrong time? And again, I'll just power through. The only idiots that know are you guys, and I don't care what you think.
Yeah, we immediately start making fun of you. And
Coming up in 5 years, I've never asked an athlete about his mustache.
Except the long tease.
There's so much bad about that. The fact that I'm teasing your guy's mustache for 5 years. Just
Only 4 more now.
Oh, man. Can't wait to find out about Darren O'Day's mustache in 2024.
He will have been retired for 3 seasons.
Let me point out that Chuck Dowdle is one of the nicest guys in this business.
Oh, you're about to crush him then.
No, I'm not going to crush him, but I will say that I think we almost lost Chuck Dowdle, because you're going to hear in this piece of audio, I think Chuck Dowdle's soul left his body for a moment, and then
Rest in peace.
He got it right back, because it sounds like he's dying, and then he sucks his soul right back in. Listen for Chuck Dowdle's soul.
Where do we stand at Georgia with some of that as far as getting started immediately with Herschel Walker? What's holding us back on that?
You know, I can only tell you what, the biggest award handed out to any former student athlete at the University of Georgia is the Circle of Honor. And if you'll notice, Herschel is not a member of that, because to be a member of that, you had to have graduated from the university.
What the hell was that? Okay, you added that. That's not real. Was that the Chuck Demon making his way out of the Dowdle body? What was that?
I think he was like, when we have a Chuck Dolphin where Chuck will make a little noise, I think he was ready to say something. He stopped, and that's what came out.
Get back here, Saul.
Oh, my God. Okay. All right. I'm glad he's okay.
My goodness.
Oh, he got the soul back in there. All right, let's move over to Matt Chernoff.
No, let's not. We're done.
Who, during our days when we head over to the Sports X, decides that all level of professional decorum goes out the window.
It's a lot more loosey-goosey time.
Yeah, you decided to, well, I'll just say you bombed the entire studio multiple times.
TV that's out, like his
That's
outdoor
kinda cool.
TV.
That's nice.
So I can be smoking a heater outside watching one game.
And still see the other game.
Yeah.
No, I looked at one of these Sunbright TVs and doing some surround sound and doing something out there, but it still doesn't solve the multi-TV option.
What kind of TV?
Who was that? Who was that?
It was what?
That was loud. Like, that was audible.
Matthew.
That was audible.
Matt Chernoff. I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry you're trapped in there with him.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about Chuck going in the control room.
So, all right, here's the other big news. You wanted to know what it was.
Did he just do it again? He just did it again.
And by he,
It's Matt.
A lot of protein.
That's twice, and we could all hear it.
It's because your legs are up on the counter and your butt is closer to the mic. Matt, go to break.
Send us to break.
Oh, farts are funny.
no, they're not. They're rude. They're rude.
He really thought.
Who was that?
And he is leaning back,
With his feet on the table.
pointed towards the microphone.
Wouldn't the audience rather us be comfortable with them at this point? That
Cape
like,
Canaveral, launching rockets.
what do we always hear? Oh, the couple that farts in front of each other, comfortable. Oh, well, we're the couple. You're the audience. I fart in front of you. Sorry.
All right, 2 cuts, and then we're finished up with this return of an audio fun bag.
Rude.
I haven't determined what this is exactly. Now, is this a cough? Is this a burp? Or is this Steak Shapiro's soul attempting to leave his body?
Hey, good morning. It's a Tuesday morning, and I'm Steak, and this is the front row. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Morning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Finneran's here. Sandra's sick, walking pneumonia.
Good night.
She's had a rough stretch, health-wise, to say the least. A lot of people getting sick these days, so I don't know when she'll be back, but Big Dan's in the house. Good morning.
Ooh, how we doing? Yeah, turn it on the microphone. That's tough to do.
Good morning to you. Congratulations on
Good
the
morning. It feels good. I'm not going to lie to you, but also, too, I mean, you know, it's one of those things me and Finn talk all the time about.
How about Dan not paying any attention to the thing coming out of Steak?
He just fought through it.
Was Dan looking at him or just not even caring?
Well, listen.
All right, your last piece of audio. I saved the best for last.
Wow.
This is Buck Ballou, and I was working with Buck one day, probably about 7 or 8 months ago, and there was a story of a boxer that we all know who had passed away, and Buck decided to take it a certain direction.
And we're going to lead with some very sad news. Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, world title Hall of Fame boxer, hit by a car in Virginia Beach last night, passes away at 55 years young.
That was one of those guys that 20 years ago in boxing, every big event involved him. He was that good of a defensive fighter.
He was a professional boxer from 1984 to 2001, and I don't believe anybody's hit him flush yet.
No.
Well, besides the car.
No.
Baker Mayfield in the news.
No.
Baker Mayfield in the news.
No need to segue to anything else. I do.
Baker Mayfield in the news.
I do appreciate that everybody laid out wonderfully while Buck's poor time joke was there.
My goodness.
It's a fun bag.
Oh, my goodness. I missed the bag so much. All right. Coming up next, I don't know.
I don't know.
Something on 790 The Zone.